Hello and Namaste. I'm Ishani for CrafTangles and today I'm here to share with you some stenciling techniques with the CrafTangles stencils. If you're like me, then you must be proud owner of many stencils, but when you plan to make a card, you forget about using them. So today I'm here to remind you of the humble stencils that are kept in the corner of your craft room. I'm sharing 3 cards where I'm making backgrounds for cards and also where I'm featuring just the stencil by combining few other techniques. For the first card, I am using a stencil called Flourish, and I am using Bristol paper which I have cut through the largest of the CrafTangles cross-stitched rectangle die. Then I take 3 colors of distress oxides, namely spun sugar, picked raspberry and wilted violet. I blend from top to bottom in the same sequence, and as I blend, I keep overlapping the 2 colors. After I was happy with the blending, I take the Flourish stencil and with a little heavy hand use the same colors for a tone-on-tone look. This gives a soft impression of the stencil. I sprinkle some water droplets for added interest and blot it out with the tissue paper. For the sentiment, I am using a stamp from the set called Little Prince. I am masking Little Man with a post-it note and stamping just Happy Birthday with Versamark and using white embossing powder and heat embossing it. Sometimes there are a few mistakes, like in this one the P's of happy have not come nicely, so I take a white shell pen and write the P, and then I notice that the P is a little longer than the Y of the birthday, so I take a black pen and then cover the white marks with the black pen. I glue the stamped Happy Birthday and below it I'm using a die-cut script, Beautiful, and I stick it with glue. I use a top folding note card I made with CrafTangles natural white cardstock to stick my panel to with the help of glue. I finished it off by adding few embellishments for a little bling. For the next card, I am using a stencil called Triangles and Canson Montwell 300 GSM paper, a heavyweight paper, as I'll be using CrafTangles texture paste for this card. Also, I'm using 2 distress inks, Blueprint Sketch and Broken China. I use painter's tape to place my paper below the stencil so that it does not move when I'm working with a palette knife. I smoosh some ink on my non-stick mat and mix it with the texture paste, and go from light to dark for an ombre look, though it will be very subtle. I'm so sorry for the messy view of my table. I was enjoying the process so much that I didn't notice how messy it was getting. I remove the stencil and clean the edges with my fingers for a clean look and let it dry before adding the watercolor florals from the Element Pack by CrafTangles. I choose a flower that I would use on my card and I fussy cut it. I cut a base from the CrafTangles Lilac 250 GSM cardstock. I die cut Mom from a die in my stash from the lilac and white cardstock, and after sticking them, I add some sheen with Spectrum Noir glitter brush pen. I take the same cardstock and on a strip I stamp On Your Birthday, which is from the stamp set From All of Us by CrafTangles. I use a black pen where I seem to have missed stamping crisp letters. I glued the florals and mount the sentiments on a double-sided foam tape and place them in the center. Then I glue my front panel to the card base, and ta-da! Here's pretty floral card, so quick and yet so beautiful. For the last card I am using mosaic stencil and I got a hard die cut window from CrafTangles masking paper. I take classic smooth white 300 GSM cardstock and cut out an A2 sized panel. And I place the die to align my heart window so that the heart is not wonky, as I didn't take care while I was die cutting it earlier. I place the stencil and with picked raspberry distress oxide ink, I ink up the heart through the stencil. So in this card, which is largely a one layer card, we are using masking and stenciling by ink blending. And now I'm going to use Snow White glimmer paste for adding glimmer on my heart. And my heart is pounding as I remove the stencil and the mask. I let it air dry and then I take flamingo pink cardstock, and to match it with my heart, here I'm going to share a trick. Whenever I don't have a matching cardstock as a base panel, I use the similar ink that I've used on my card for coloring the edges. So I use picked raspberry here to color my edges the same color as the heart. For the sentiment, I'm using a stamp set called I Love You, and the sentiment that says, "And suddenly all the love songs were about you." I use my stamping platform to stamp the sentiment with the blank ink. And I glue my front panel to the DIY card base. I hope you enjoyed my cards and would try similar techniques for your cards. I have linked all the supplies used in the cards in the description box below. Do let me know if there are any questions in the comments below, and I would love to clarify them for you. Thank you for watching and have a great day ahead. Bye.